I may disagree with what is said in your program, but I would give my life for it to continue. Allow me to have a long introduction, because the story has to be told in full, especially since it developed in our studio pretty much from the beginning. On May 29th, in Friday evening, on our show, a officer from Tornado company, Nikolai Tsukur, accused the Lugansk police of covering up smuggling. I'm sad to say that my direct boss, Lieutenant General Naumenko, first appointed by both of the separatists and reaffirmed by current police minister Avakov, is still in charge, and there's corruption and everything. And the war has been going on for a year, and he's still not investigated for giving the separatists 30,000 rifles, for abandoning the secret documents. We were stopping smuggling when we found out that smuggling will go on by train cars, no longer by buses. And the first train went on April 1st, and we got an order to leave Stanitsa Luganskaya on April 2nd. How much is one of those trains worth? About 10 million hryvnia. Yes, for one time. To just pass the train through one time, they take a 10 million bribe to move a train from Lugansk to Lugansk. What's in those trains? From Lugansk, they take coal to Shestye, to the power station, and then they take food back. Yes, every day they go. So after this show, on May 31st, at 4 in the morning, unknown persons broke the windows in Tsukur's home and poured gasoline and set it on fire. That happened in Perevalsk. Perevalsk is in the occupied territories. It's not in government-controlled territory. But Tsukur himself still considers that this arson was due to him saying live on air in our show that the head of police Naumenko in that district is doing business with the insurgents. The next week, next Friday, Nikolai Tsukur again came to our show and brought a video how these train cars go back and forth for these 10 million hryvnia that he talked about. During the show, Semyon Semyonchenko, who was in the studio, promised to go to Donbass and check for himself what's going on there. In a week, June 12th, Semyon Semyonchenko said that and showed how they stopped a train with lumber in Svetlanovo, last station before the occupied territories, and construction-grade lumber was documented as mere firewood. According to Semyon, each day 4-5 trains go back and forth through that station. That was on the 5th. And that was on the 12th. In 5 days, on June 17th, the Ministry of Internal Affairs, together with Prosecutor General's office, have arrested 8 soldiers of the Tornado company that Sukur serves in, including the police lieutenant, head of the company, Ruslan Onищенко. The soldiers are accused of committing felonies in Lugansk Oblast. Yesterday, the head of police of Ukraine, Arsen Avakov, has signed an order to disband Tornado and told what they are being accused of. The Ministry of Internal Affairs and Prosecutors General has arrested 8 men. 7 of them are officers of the Tornado police company. They are accused of kidnapping and torture, murder, and a number of other felonies. Today I signed an order to disband Tornado company. All of them are no longer in that unit. An internal investigation is already started. Each of them will be interviewed personally. Each of them will be investigated. So Arsen Avakov sent envoys to Severodonetsk to disarm these people, but the Tornado fighters have barricaded in their base, did not let police officers in, and said that they are ready to use their weapons. According to Military Prosecutor General Matthias, there are 170 men in that base, a huge amount of weapons and ordnance. The man in charge of the company now, Nikolai Sukur, in an interview with Expressa TV, has declared that the soldiers are in the base in order to guarantee their own safety, and they are ready to carry out the minister's orders, but they demand a lawyer to be provided to their commander. The soldiers of Tornado are certain that their problems are related to them on June 17th, stopping a train with smuggled cast iron with 17 train cars, and they found 9 small pieces of TNT. At the same time, the head of Lugansk administration, Gennady Moskal, has declared that the train they have detained was actually transporting coal to a factory in separatist territory that still pays taxes to Ukraine, and the transport was fully legal and had all the required permits. According to head of Lugansk administration, Moskal, was simply their actions were simply PR in order to avoid responsibility for their crimes. Gennady Moskal is live on air right now on the phone, so he hears everything we say in the studio. Moreover, the head military prosecutor Anatoly Matias says that the investigation of these people was started in March, even before they started detaining trains with contraband. And this is the whole story. It needs to be understood because we are on the verge of conflict. Anatoly Matias, head military prosecutor of Ukraine. His deputy to the prosecutor general. Please tell us from your viewpoint what's going on. Good evening. Good evening, Savik. Good evening, the audience. Good evening, everyone. We have made a decision and started our investigation, started collecting evidence. They have violated the following articles of the Penal Code: creating a bandit organization by the police officers, illegal kidnapping of people, torture, murder, police brutality. That was done by police officers, by armed law enforcement, who were supposed to serve and protect the people. Who were commanded by the police department for Lugansk Oblast. To prove what we say, we wanted to show the evidence without breaking the law. So I have made the decision and made a request and brought to the studio a permit to announce the results of the investigation before the trial. The permit says the head military prosecutor of Ukraine, Anatoly Matias, is allowed to announce the results of pre-trial investigation without saying the names of the victims that may end, without naming them, because that might affect their honor and dignity. So, I am reading quotes from the protocols of questioning of the victims in the language of the original. He was speaking Ukrainian. In the middle of March, when I was in town, a van stopped by me. 3 people in camo came out, put me in the van, didn't tell me anything about why I was detained. Approximately at 10 p.m., we were taken to the school, to former school building in which the Tornado Battalion was housed, which everybody knew. We were put in the basement, and we were promised we'll be fed 3 times a day and given cigarettes. If we refused to work, they said we may be executed. After some time, a man came in with a plastic pipe of gray color. He was beating the detained on the legs, butt, and feet for approximately 8 days. The members of Tornado Battalion were beating various people, were bringing various people to the basement and beating them. They were beating them with plastic pipes and other objects, mostly feet, back, and genitals. Moreover, these people were tortured with an item that looked like an electric generator. The people were poured with water, stripped naked, and bare wires were touched to their various points on their body, temples on their head, their penis, and their balls. The people were screaming a lot because these tortures were causing them extreme suffering. These members of Tornado Battalion also smoked weed 6 or 7 times in this basement. That's one questioning. The beginning is also the same. The guy was taken in the van and taken to that base. The beginning is the same. Just the dates are different. These events and tortures by Tornado members were filmed on their mobile phones. Also, one of Tornado members threatening a detained person with murder forced him to suck and lick a gray plastic tube. He directed the detained to imitate a sexual act. The detained were also forced to rape each other orally and anally. I spent 17 days there. What are the dates? 17th to 23rd. The beginning is the same on this one. If we refused to work, they said that they may execute us. The head of the battalion was beating us with a plastic pipe. The armed members of Tornado Battalion were bringing various people, men, to this basement where they were tortured with an electric generator and a army phone. They put them on a bare floor, naked, and poured water on them from plastic bottles. Then they spinned the handle of army phone to generate electricity and touched the bare wires to various body parts. I have named them before. They also did the same tortures with electric stun guns that were used on every man by the Tornado Battalion. One of the detained, I decided I will read this, was forced to suck a plastic pipe and pretended he is sucking a penis. He was tied to a horse, that wooden horse for exercise. He was beaten with a stick, poured with water, and electric shocks. He was forced to dance naked. He was forced to do squats with a yellow exercise weight of 50 pounds weight. The detained were forced, with the threat of arms, to rape each other in unnatural ways. I spent 17 or 18 days in the basement. I don't remember exactly. And that's the last thing I can allow myself to read. On March 24th, approximately at 2 p.m., I was detained in Lysychansk by 2 police officers with Tornado insignia. Then 3 men came who were wearing camouflage, who put a knife to my throat and forced me to sit in the van. I obeyed because I was scared. In approximately 40 minutes, the van stopped. I was taken out of the van with my eyes tight and taken somewhere. One of the police officers, threatening me with murder and electric shocks, and forced me to suck a gray plastic tube to imitate an oral sex. Throughout the time I spent in the basement, I don't remember how many days, but more than 15, several times a day, the police officers would come to the basement, tie me to an exercise horse, and beat me with sticks and torture me with electricity. Moreover, every day they would force me to do degrading work such as washing toilets, etc. So I don't run away. They handcuffed my leg to a yellow exercise weight of 50 pounds weight. On one of the days, I do not remember the date, me and one other detained were made under threat of murder to rape a third detained person who was tied to an exercise horse. I was from the side of the head, and the other one was from the other side. They demanded that I put my penis in the mouth of the detained. That was filmed on cell phones by 2 Tornado members. On so-and-so date, I was let go home after a severe beating. I was thrown out of the van and they left. Currently, sorry, I'm worried. The investigation has proof that is collected very correctly. All of these evidence was properly recorded, was presented in court. That was recorded on audio and video. All the people who went through these inhumane tortures and who seen them not through rumor, but firsthand, who have personally been to the Tornado Battalion base, all these people are currently under guard and protected. We have decided to start an operation to arrest the people responsible. I didn't even read the rest of the evidence. It can be read without crying. So, together with police internal affairs, at the same time, in 4 cities of Ukraine, Kiev, Dnipropetrovsk, Lvov, and Severodonetsk, we arrested 8 people. At that moment, we did not have any specific problems with the rest of Tornado Battalion soldiers. All those who were identified we have already arrested. Nikola Tsukor said that he won't allow investigation or searches in the battalion base. He will only obey his commander. Thinking about this, I have honestly declared, you were meeting in the center of Lysychansk. Yes, we decided to meet in the center of Lysychansk. There was together with a film crew from 1+1 TV channel. They were standing there and filming how those guys were pointing rifles at me. And Tsukor was telling them, film, don't film, etc. So, Tsukor сказал, there will be no investigation. You told us you only arrested the commander, and you actually arrested 8 guys. So, we will not give up our weapons. Turned out that they deployed mines. They deployed automatic grenade launchers. They have blocked approaches to the base. They have deployed 6 sniper teams around the base. They deployed tripwires around the school, and their base is 50 meters from a civilian houses where normal people live. So, taking the decision that we cannot allow the forced option to happen, I have addressed the minister, like a colleague, the police minister, so he can use his power to legally help us resolve this situation. So that's how it developed, and the minister has, I think, correctly taken the decision to disband this battalion. Moreover, not everybody at the base are its members. There are supposed to be 109 police officers, and there are 70 more unknown people. Moreover, one of them is the member of that bandit organization that we want to arrest. He is a citizen of Belarus. He's already been to prison. Moreover, before coming to Donetsk, we have investigated the people serving in the battalion. So, out of their number, 43 of them have already been convicted of criminal acts. 9 of them several times. The commander of the battalion has been convicted of criminal acts 3 times. Actually 5 times. There were some procedural difficulties. He was convicted of felony misdemeanors, racketeering, etc. As for the smuggling, it's all reported. It was all in the official army papers. Nobody was covering anything up. The thing is, Tornado were already coming to Lugansk prosecutor's office and asking if there are any investigations on them. And at that time, there were already no investigations there, because we figured out they will do this, and we took the investigations. But they might not have calmed down, and their instinct of self-preservation probably prompted them to raise this issue to give themselves the impression of suffering for fighting corruption. So, this is a proven fact. The military prosecutor general has determined that the deputy commander of police company, Tsukur, has heard the court decision and the order of the police minister through a megaphone on a police car in his base at such and such address. After being fully informed by the proper command channels, has violated his competence and has ordered the police officers on his command to take up combat positions and ordered them to lock and load their weapons and take aim. This violates court decision so and so, prevents the investigation and search of the base in question. So he interferes with investigation. Therefore, his actions are a crime defined in Part 365 of the Penal Code of the Ukraine, which are punishable by 3 to 8 years in prison. Furthermore, the beginning is the same. He also violated the decision of the court, violating statute 380, which is also punishable by 3 to 8 years in prison. I also want to say that journalists have asked me, why don't you give me the names and the video evidence? And I told them, put yourself in the place of the victims. That gets shown on national TV, then you come back to your neighbors, to your classmates, to your girlfriend. And this is only one small episode of what happened there. There was nothing said about what happened in Slanitsko-Luganskaya. There's nothing what they're doing right now in the base. There's nothing said about them stealing 8 trucks of ordnance from our army troops that were retreating from Debaltseve. There was nothing said about them deploying an armored car and that was pointing its main gun at us, etc., etc. I'm tired. Well, not that tired, I'm still alive. But I'm tired to solve these issues all with the prosecutor's office. But I guess we'll have to do it. Gennady Moskal, the head of Lugansk district, was listening to us. Gennady Gennadich, can you add something to what we've heard, or is this enough? So, parents from Lugansk came to me that 2 of their sons have disappeared after being taken off a bus by Tornado. They had a sum of money with them, and we came to Tornado and we asked them about it, and they said no, we didn't take these people, even though there's a lot of witnesses that saw them take these people. So that all went to the prosecutor's office. One of them was found murdered, buried, and the other we have not found, and I think he is probably also dead. So, also, before that, they have taken rifles and raided Stanitsa Luganskaya. Stanitsa Luganskaya was on the front line. There were no houses left, and people were hiding in basements. So they would come in, shoot out the locks, take food, TVs, everything that was in the house. As the head of the district administration, I went there. Most people were afraid to write against them, but we got 16 police reports. That went to the police, to the prosecutor's office. the prosecutor's office were afraid. They said, they will shoot us, etc. So I went to Yerema, head prosecutor, and after that I went to Shokin, current prosecutor general, and then we got a reaction that went to the military prosecutor's office, and they started their investigation. So I just want to ask Nikolai Tsukur, who's also listening to us, when you were in our studio twice in a row, did you know about these horrible tortures that were being done by the members of your company or battalion in the basement in your base? Did you know about that? No, I didn't know. Even the head of our company, Ruslan, always said, whatever you do, you answer to it to the full extent of the law. But the thing is, the people who are arrested, it's the same situation that they're accusing us of. We right now don't have a lot of information about how they were detained, how they were let go, but it's basically the same accusations that they're leveling at us have been done to our soldiers. So, I have never opposed investigations. I have papers from sending 20, 30 of our soldiers before to the prosecutor's office for investigation. They go there, they return safe and sound. But of the people that were detained recently, none have returned healthy, one returned very beaten, and two have disappeared. We can hear you. Tell Tsukur that we haven't interrupted him, but we can't really hear him. Head of military office for the ATO zone, deputy head of military office. So we're talking about Tornado now. Let's talk about Shakhtersk, which is what it was called before. Let's remember who Onishchenko is. Let's remember Everlast, who came from the illegal fight club Upload, and all this, their path they cut through Mariupol and Volnovakha, that even now darkens any sort of volunteer movement. And up until now, the civilians there will never like us, because Shakhtersk has done these things to them, which Shakhtersk was later disbanded, but the minister gave them a chance to get reborn, to create something new, to root out the dirt that they amassed through the previous year. They created the Tornado Battalion, and they were sent to the neighboring district in Lugansk. Can you verify one thing? So, in July 2014, Shakhtersk Battalion, police battalion, was created. Ruslan Onishchenko was one of the officers, the commander, yes. In October, the police has disbanded the battalion due to open criminal, to evidence of their of the things that we're doing. So, a bastard cannot be fixed. How could you give them weapons again and put them in power again. So they were reformatted in some way, yes? Yes, they were investigated. Those who were found guilty were fired from the police forces. So they were reformed into a new battalion, Tornado, and sent to another district in Lugansk. At the moment, I was deputy to the commander of the war committee, and that's another story. And I was actually dealing with smuggling and all that. And after the new year, by the way, this is why I came to this show, and this is why I'm talking. After the new year, about January 10th, a member of my department comes to me because his friend was coming to him through the Donetsk district, and at one of the checkpoints his friend was taken out of the bus and disappeared. I invited the family of this man, his family, his wife, and his wife was 6 months pregnant at the time, and his mother came. She was retired, and they made a report to me because they trusted me. I'm from the right sector, a volunteer, etc. They have reported that they are being extorted for 40,000 hryvnia, $800. $2,000. So that their son and husband would be let go. So it was a kidnapping. Yes, it was a kidnapping. So from that moment, our department took it up and did the investigation. That's not our specialty. We were dealing with smuggling and checkpoints and war and second line of defense, but we did our own investigation, and at that point we first tracked the first transfer of money, 14,000. That money was given to a woman in the city of Kharkov, and through the bank, through Privat Bank, and through her, we found her name, last name, accounts. We found her phones, then used her phone records to track her phones. So we tracked the entire chain, and through this whole traffic, we arrived at the Tornado base by Lysychansk, that same base. Which month was it? That was January 10th. There were reports, and January 12th, 2015, under Statute 146 of the Ukraine Criminal Code, we have started an official criminal case. I said that I can bring this man we have dragged out of that basement in that base. His name is Belый Ruslan Sergeyevich. The man that we took out of there. He was in very bad shape. Everything that the prosecutor said, I know he can repeat it, but I don't want to go into the scrap. That's true. So what goes on today is the cleansing our police force. This would take days. why don't we talk about the fact that Battalion Artyomovsk was disbanded 2 months ago for the same, very similar story. Anishchenko is... no. That guy is the former commander of the Artyomovsk Battalion, and he has avoided responsibility through becoming a member of parliament. And the Artyomovsk Battalion was one of the main centers of smuggling in Debaltsevo area. That they were smuggling coal, food, because without rooting out heads of police in the districts, because this criminal case was submitted January 12th, and you told me, Mr. Prosecutor, that there were no military cases on Tornado Battalion. I tell you, January 12th, we put a military, opened a investigation. Everlast was specifically in this kidnapping. Why did this case go away? That's not the question. This is the first question. How is this the second question? That allowed for all this stuff to happen in April and March. This could have been stopped in January. In what goes on now is the logical continuation of what has been going on. Not all the police officers in Donetsk, Lugansk districts are bastards. There are honest people who left their families, who left their homes, who went without equipment, who rent apartments, who get paid $200 a month, who do their duty, who lose their lives, who die, and those are the people for a structure that may in the future allow us to create a real organization that will not be a punitive organization but will actually help people, that would actually protect people from illegal actions. One thing, can I speak? When you were reading those evidence, you were so emotional, as if you've never read them, and I felt like I've heard them 100 times. For me, that was a shock. Okay, that was a shock for you, but I read this every week. I get letters every week. This torture is being done in jails, in pre-trial investigations. The descriptions you've read are exactly the same told to me by people in Kharkov, in the jail. The same torture. Oh, who's torturing who? Police? Police is torturing people. Yeah. And I went to Kharkov, and I went to the jail. They asked me, please put us to prison. Please take us out of this jail. Please take us off pre-trial. And that torture that they were doing is standard from people who know it, who's been using it for a while. They are police officers. And I talked about this 2 years ago. This needs to be fixed. Nobody did anything. 2 months ago, we took out a guy from a courtroom who spent 7 years in pre-trial for murder. without trial. He spent 7 years in jail. And we brought a man to court from Moscow who he was accused of killing. What can we talk about? The guy was alive? Yes. The guy he was accused of killing was alive. He spent 7 years there. And he was put there by the prosecutor from Poltava because he wanted to take his apartment. These are not common volunteers. And Mr. Prosecutor, thank you very much for listening to me 2 days ago. We need to fix our army. I talk to you from soldiers' mothers. They are called 500 casualties by people. Everybody drinks. The officers drink. Why do you take our children if they have nothing to do except drink there? And another thing, the soldiers are being beaten. Yesterday, day before yesterday, I went to prosecutor. 2 soldiers were beating and tortured by their own officers, taken out. There was one case, another, and I don't believe that the rest of the police officers in this base didn't know about these tortures going on. They had to have seen people walking around, brought in. They saw a man handcuffed to a weight, washing toilets. On February 20th, 2014, Ukraine became independent for the first time. Nobody was willing to protect it. When Girkin's gang took Slaviansk, we had the question of how to liberate it. There were literally nobody willing to liberate. There were literally a few hundred people, some special forces, that's it. We made the decision because all the police structures in Donbass and Lugansk fell apart because thousands of people betrayed and went to the other side. We had to create volunteer battalions. For example, Semyon Semyonchenko is here. I personally helped him start the Donbass battalion. We created units such as Azov, Mirotvorets, Shakhtersk, etc. We assembled them out of people who said, we're ready to fight for the country, give us weapons, want to protect the motherland. So we took this step to take Ukraine. The war is always violence, it's always pain, and a lot of people get their minds messed up at war. I can say these cases occurred in many other volunteer battalions, not just Tornado. Can you name another such case? Sure, 2 police officers were shot by a volunteer battalion soldier. So the first question has been already asked. If this has been going for so long, why was this question only raised after they started talking about smuggling, after they started accusing the regional administration and the police administration? And these people are worried that the documents they collected on several trains of smuggled goods, so they are worried that everything that goes on is simply revenge again for them, stopping the illegal flow of 60 million hryvnia a day in bribes that involves several head officials in the administration. I'm not a judge to determine this. Either one could be true. The other question, when the war started, which we still don't call a war, Uh, a lot of people volunteered to help the army because for 23 years, um, people were paying to support the army, police, and security service. For 23 years, they were paying this, and they didn't understand why the police and the army cannot protect them. And then we started volunteering, and we also started getting reports that the rebels allowed convicts to join. And if you can stay in prison or you can come out and fight against us. And looks like we did the same thing. We took a bunch of convicts and made them police officers. So the question is, we armed convicts just the same, enlisted them in the police force, did the same thing as the other side did. We're not that different. And you say we have to purge our ranks from them. We also have to purge our ranks from the people who armed these convicts. We have to purge our ranks from the people that reformed the Shakhtersk battalion after they committed these horrible crimes in the liberated territory. And I confirm that, having worked a year aiding the army in these areas, I have to say that I have not met any of these people at the front lines, never got any requests for help from them, and the only thing we saw from them were problems at the internal checkpoints by Artyomovsk. And I don't believe that in school buildings, that when people are shoving pipes in various orifices of other people screaming, that other people can not know about it, that this can occur without everybody being complicit. Here I agree with previous speakers. But those people have one request. They have documentation proving smuggling. And this is the main point of contention, that somebody is participating in smuggling. It's not clear who exactly from the officials is complicit. There was the same story in Stanitsa Luganskaya, by the way, with the Chernigov battalion and Kulchitsky battalion. So they need guarantees that these documents that they have that report smuggling, that they would go to the right hands and they would not be forged or disappeared. I talked to Tsukur for 40 minutes. Yes. They are worried where these documents will go. They voiced their concern and their desire to punish those involved in the criminal smuggling and not allow these documents to disappear. And like it usually happens, and for 2 years of this war, my feeling is that it was started by people on either side that earn money on it, that smuggle everything, starting with cigarettes and beer and continuing to hold train loads of coal, because that's the only way they know how to earn money. They don't know how to earn money honestly, but they know very well how to earn money through crime and bribes. I want to respond to Semyonchenko that he was speaking that he wants to stop smuggling and to institute full blockade against the separatist regions. Because we passed a law before so that the businesses from separatist regions can get registered here pay taxes to us, and even if they mine coal in separatist territory, they provide coal that we need for heating in the winter. If there's a question that we are not letting through construction lumber for the mines, that is not okay. Well, this was investigated. There are addresses in the occupied territories. Well, yes, of course. Like, if you can take your video camera and take your business elsewhere, they cannot take a mine or a factory. You know, what happens if they have a metallurgical factory that employs thousands of people that today they're working, and tomorrow, if you block their job, they might join the separatists. You want these people to hear on air that we here are trying to starve them. Anybody in the occupied territories, if they think they're a citizen of Ukraine, they don't have the rights. They also have the obligation to protect Ukraine. There are different people there. Yeah. Again, I tell these people to go to the area controlled by us. Nobody needs them. Nobody needs the refugees. Nobody takes care of the refugees. They don't have anywhere to live. What are you talking about? They have to join the police or the National Guard. They have to enlist. Another problem that we have is that nobody trusts the government, head of CensorNet, mass media. We always have these revolutions that we try to create a government, and we always discuss the justice system on air, on the floor, because we don't have a really working legal system. And I think the main conclusion we can make from this is that the parliament and the entire government needs to first work on it and reform the legal system, because the lack of a proper jury trial in Ukraine leads to chaos. When you need to resolve things live on air, when nobody trusts anyone, when it's unclear who evaluates the proof, can people who do investigations be trusted? This situation with Tornado, that the responsibility falls not only on those directly implicated, but also by everybody else in the unit, can only be resolved when the whole situation is investigated. And this whole thing can only be properly investigated by a jury trial. The lack of justice is the main problem. Yeah. No, by the way, we do have a law on jury trial. It's just not applied enough. It needs to be made really functioning on all felonies. It doesn't work in the amounts that are necessary for our society. Every day we have some huge crimes and it all goes live on air. I also want to say that we cannot fix the country without this. One thing I want to say, Nikolai, imagine World War II. There are some rumors that people are being burned alive in Nazi concentration camps. Gypsies, homosexuals, Jews, but nobody talks about it, right? These are just rumors. And in the end, it happens that in 1945, it gets found out and the guilt goes onto German people as a whole. But if, hypothetically, if this wasn't discussed live on air and the perpetrators were blamed, they would only fall on the perpetrators.